Okay. So Justin and I decided to jump on here today, have a little AI discussion after we met in the AI summit the other day, and both kind of shared from our backgrounds and what we're talking about. So we were just having a discussion off camera, and thought, oh, let's just start recording and have that discussion. So I guess we'll just jump a little bit back your background, Justin, and kind of how you got an AI, because that's what we're just about to discuss is in that B2B sales realm, and kind of what you saw as far as doing cold calls and working within there, and saw what AI could do. So do you want to kind of jump in a little bit of that, and I have some thoughts and questions for you. So
Absolutely. I was a 22-year B2B sales professional, and the last decade of that career was spent specializing in cold outreach. I billed myself as a master of the cold call. I've done over 600,000 dials in my career for business to business solicitation, and led teams, and monitored over I think it was 1.3 million at my last count. But I got really good. But about 6 years ago, maybe closer to seven now, I saw a video of Google Assistant scheduling a hair appointment live on stage at some sort of electric consumer conference. And I'm like, there's only a couple of steps between that and what I do. My job will be automated away. But being the entrepreneur that I am, I decided to be the one to build that automation. And so we did. And that was the start of Firebringer AI. It's a cold calling outbound voice AI that works really good. And then no code came out. Like we started building before no code tools were really anything. Then when no code tools came out, we're like,
give
oh,
you a
well,
little no code tools, like what explain to people who are watching might not understand what that means versus how we used to did things back in the old days.
right. So I can't write a lick of code. I'm not a tech guy, I'm a sales guy. So I'd actually brought on some tech guys to start writing the code and developing the tool,
Yep.
for an agreement. And then there's tools like Make and Zapier that started to utilize the integrations with OpenAI or Claude, all the large language models. And suddenly that turned them into, hey, if you want to do a process that's completely AI without knowing how to code, you can do it in Make, you can do it in Zapier, you can do it in all these other platforms that came out. Make is the one I still use. But I started building out other supplementary tools such as email, personalized email at scale, social media content creator, on page SEO, off page SEO, like all the things that are needed for that top end of funnel, both organic marketing and sales outreach. And they all worked really well. We got a lot of really good results internally from them. And then more recently, they've started to come out with these AI development environments, Bolt, then Cursor, then Windsurf now from Codium. And basically, it allows you to prompt AI to write the code. And it's still a learning curve. I'm still trying to figure that out, but it's got so much potential for people who don't know how to code but have an idea for a software.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're going with that. But in the hands of a developer, by the way, if you put Windsurf in the hands of somebody who knows how to code, it's as powerful as putting a cold calling bot in my hands as a guy who
Yeah.
knows how to sell.
Yeah. And I think that is such an important part of all of this is to look at it of, automation. When you look at, we'll say B2B first, B2B calling, automation can't replace experience and having some of these things and doing that. It can certainly replace to a certain level, so when you look at that kind of base level of just smile and dial and just trying to, find the right person in there, automation can replace that. Then there's that level of, for now, where now we have the human come in there to either, bring in that experience to make the system better, or bring in that experience now to take over from the system. So that's two ways to do it. And you look at the coding the same way. You're going to lose a lot of the preliminary jobs of a coder, so just sitting there and banging out lines of code, because it can do that. But you still need that expertise. You still need somebody to be able to take that, understand what the AI is putting out to you and giving it to you, and either improve it or quickly troubleshoot some of the things that, as much as AI can try to do that, it still is not going to be great at the troubleshooting or great at, what there's a disconnect between what the delivery is supposed to be and where we're at. So those are those things where I when I talk about AI, I say look at it as like a really strong intern right now,
Mhm.
and it's probably getting to the level of a real a good entry level employee of trust and verify, but it can do a lot of the work, it can do a lot of the heavy lifting that you need to do here, so you can get a lot better up at this level.
Oh yeah, and that's I basically say like it's an amplifier to multiplier. If you have a skill
Yeah, I love
and
it.
you can teach AI to do that, you now have an infinite number of yous to do the work that you just mastered the skill for.
Yep.
I can only make so many calls in my day. I'm really good at structuring how to respond to the calls, but I can only make so many by myself. I hired humans at one point to do more calls and train them.
Hmm.
And now I have AI do the same thing that I had humans doing. It's more consistent, but at the same time, there are places where I have to make sure that jumping into the loop of the cycle, the sales cycle, because the AI, even though it can do that initial call, there's people who hang up on it just because it's AI. And our AI announces itself. I'm an
Yep.
artificial representative. We believe in transparency about this
Yep.
stuff. But there are people who would just hang up on it just because it's an AI. But at the end of the day, I get a report that says these people actually answered the phones. So out of the 200 calls I used to make a day, now the bot makes 200 calls and I get a list of 15 people that answered the phone and 10 of them that I need to follow up on.
Right.
That is a time saver.
Very
And I
much so.
can't buy
Yep.
more time at the end of the year. You know what I mean?
Yep. Our most valuable commodity for sure, and that's what I'm doing. That's so it's doing that heavy lifting. Now you have a list from the 200. Okay, these people are actually, there's actually somebody on the other end of the phone. We actually see that and can see and know that now, and now you can treat that differently. And in most cases, as you said, you're going to take over. Somebody with the experience would take over, and now reach out to them, human to human. Yeah. So I think you're going to lose people right away. But cold calling, and I've done cold calling as well. We're going to lose people regardless, whether it's human or AI. You're getting the phone slammed on you. So, but
I
being
worked in
able
call centers and there were literally multiple times where somebody new started that morning and they did not come back from lunch.
and yep,
Like they left for lunch and never returned. And it's like, yeah,
yep,
you get used to that though.
yep. It's the hardest easy job or the easiest hard job. When you look at it, you really have to be able to take that. There's a book called Rejection Proof. Take the rejection of what goes as part of that to be able to succeed. And obviously now with some of these tools and what we're able to do, we can kind of take away some of the sting of rejection to that, and be able to. And obviously, the analytics and all the. Yeah, why don't you talk a little about like the data that you can see? You already talked about, you can see how many people answer the phone or all
Oh
those things.
yeah.
How much improved data do you see as opposed to what you used to be able to do?
Well, see, here's even the data is great because one, it can we can get larger volumes out. Like the AI can do back to back calls, no breaks, multiple channels. There's a thing called parallelization where it's doing like two or three dials at a time, like the old power dialers or predictive dialers. But instead of only connecting to one person who picks up, you connect to everybody who picks up. And so we're getting larger volumes of data, and that's valuable. But my favorite thing is, as somebody who has hired people to do this job, getting them to put accurate notes into the CRM was always like pulling hen's teeth.
Always a challenge. Yes.
The AI transcription summary, put the summary into the notes of the CRM, and that's done. Like it's an after effect of just the call happening is that notes get put into the CRM accurate and mostly accurate. The transcription's still a little wonky, but I mean that's kind of the funny thing too. Like the AI tools that we use, they're still very early. Like
Very much
the
so.
the
Yep.
AI detectors, this is one of my favorite. The AI detectors that are preventing people from like having their blogs approved or whatever, they are not good. You can
No.
turn in 100% human written content, it will detect it as AI. It almost seems random.
So I explained this to my daughter who's in college the other day, and she's like, "Hey, so and we're talking about AI," and I said, "There are no AI detectors, just so you know. That's a total myth. What it is looking for the way that AI is writing, and it writes at a higher level than most people write or use different words and phrases, and looks at that. So as you said, someone who's maybe a little more advanced of a writer or does these things, those detectors are going to flag it like, oh, this is probably AI. It does. You can't tell if it's AI or not. But anybody I talked to, I was like, look, it's AI gives you the base. You can build off of that. I wouldn't recommend anybody taking and I use all the large language models. Claude is probably my favorite if you're writing like copy or doing things
Mm.
as far as the the results it comes back with. But I still wouldn't just take again like an intern, trust and verify. I'm not going to take what they give me and just throw it out there. I'm going to take what they give me. Like this is great stuff. Let me now make sure I'm putting in my words, or I'm making sure it's saying that I want it, what I want it to say. So that's why the whole when I laugh when I hear AI detector because it's
Hmm.
not. It's just this is
They're
looking at
they're
hey,
not they're not accurate by a
crazy.
long shot,
Right,
but what's really funny is like you want to double check everything you put out. On the flip side, I built out prompts and structures and checks in place into automations and then created a Justin's voice filter.
right.
So any piece of content then gets run through Justin's voice and it does weird things like include parentheticals and ellipses, which reduces the AI detection. So it's consistently below 40%, but it it looks human. It feels like my writing. It doesn't feel like AI.
Yep,
So that's all of the content, and I've got that completely automated so that I don't need to check on it. But
yep.
before I did that, we had another system set up, and our business profile, which posts about quantum computing and AI, actually posted a whole thing about a military alliance between Australia and Europe that was political and not really on brand for what we were doing
Mm,
because the article it was writing from the RSS feed that we were using as a source was looking for quantum computing and AI, and it said this military general has looked into future technologies like AI and quantum computing.
right.
So it wrote an entire article across all our platforms on a military alliance in Europe and Australia. And it's like my CTO flipped on me. He's like, we can't represent this. I'm like, I'll fix it. But
And
yeah,
that,
if
and
you
that
don't check, you will occasionally get bit, but you can set it up so that you don't need to check it
right.
every single time.
Yes, and it's certainly we're getting it's getting there more and more for most. I think again, when you and I are talking and we're going through these things, we have to remind ourselves we're a little ahead of the curve when it comes to AI. Some people haven't even started using it yet. So I think for most people, they're going to still start of not understanding that part of it and being able to set it up where it does write in your voice, where you can trust it more on those things, and that is becoming more and more um, widespread. Even Claude or some of the other large language models are starting to do that to some results. But I think you still need to have someone like yourself to be able to really customize it better and spend a little more time and have the expertise to do it. But yeah, it's the same as the Gemini saying put glue in your pizza to make the cheese stick. It just it found that information somewhere. It wasn't making it up, but it just didn't realize it was a parody website and didn't understand a joke from anything else. Thus, it put the information out. So those are the things where especially if people are starting to use it. Those are things you really have to be aware of and start to look at it or work with an expert.
Yeah, we're literally talking about months of guess and check and trial and error and many, many errors
Sure.
to get to that point.
Sure.
But I mean, you're right. Like it is, especially within my network, the people that I deal with on a regular basis are in the AI space. I'm heavy in this space, so my network is a lot of AI founders, AI engineers, and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So it's really easy for us in this space to forget that most people have not done anything with ChatGPT aside from use it as an alternative to a Google search.
Yep.
And it's like when hear that, I'm like, but they're really underutilizing this valuable tool. But at the same time, like the thing that most people know about AI is that it hallucinates. They don't
Yeah.
understand that those hallucinations have decreased from chat gpt 3.5 to 4.0 mini to claude 3.5 sonnet. Those hallucinations have decreased, and you can also prompt to prevent that from coming out into content and such.
Yep.
So like they have no idea that the hallucinations are really not the problem that they were in the beginning, because that's the only thing they really have heard about it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, nowhere near as close. They certainly dramatically had a reduction in that, and we see that even within without the models being upgraded, we're seeing just small updates and changes within the models to always improve that. So
Mhm.
and then that's
And it moves so
that's
fast too. The improvements in
huge.
AI systems and the upgrades and updates. Windsurf came out November 13th. Like this AI coding tool came out November 13th, and the first tool, the Bolt, came out in like September. So like within 3 months, we had three much better iterations of the same kind of tool. That
Right.
never happened in any tech field before.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Like,
mean, just the amount that's and so what we're really talking about for people who don't understand AI agents and being able to take some of this information and as these tools start to work more and being able to take it and do multiple steps with it and do multiple um, actions within one thing, say, okay, this is the end result I want, but it's going to take maybe a couple different systems, maybe a couple different actions, and where before you had to do a lot of the heavy lifting to make that happen, an AI agent is now able to make that happen for you. And once you have that set up, it's going to go through these multiple steps and do all those things, and that's something that Justin really focuses on a lot with Firebringer and kind of doing that. So that is, you're going to hear, if you haven't started using AI, you're going to hear AI agents a lot more in 2025. All of the large language models are really starting to get into this space, and although they've had it for a while, it's becoming, I would say, becoming more public now. But obviously, people like Justin have really been working towards that and seeing the future in doing that. So, what do you think for as far as 2025? Where do you see AI agents really going? Some of the things that it's able to do now, and where do you think it's going to be in the next 6 to 12 months?
well, what I see interesting right now is that a lot of the big AI players like 11 Labs, excuse me, 11 Labs, OpenAI, they're putting out agents now that do specific tasks. And what those of us who've been building agents since, forever, before agents were called agents, actually,
Right.
which 2 years, by the way, is how long this has been going on. We're starting to build like systems of agents rather than individual agents. That tends to be where those of us who are, and I would call us leading edge, we're taking the technology systems that 11 Labs and OpenAI and all of those provide and combining them to make them into agents before they were using, even thinking about creating agents.
Yeah.
Now they're releasing agents. So to stay ahead of the game, we're going to be doing things slightly different. And I suspect that's where a lot of the industry is going to go. But the big time players, the guys who have name recognition, what you're going to see is 11 Labs just basically put out a phone plug and play tool. So you just give it the information for your dialing system, your Twilio or whatever that makes the phone calls through your system,
Yep.
and it does the phone call for you.
Yep.
And it's like we spent 9 months coding a tool that used 11 Labs and Chat GPT and Whisper or Google Speech to Text to do just that through
Right.
Twilio. OpenAI put it out, or 11 Labs put it out just like last week, I think. They're going to start putting out the
It was.
individual
Yeah.
agents, and you're going to see a lot of traction for those guys because they're already names in the space.
Yep.
But there are AI SDRs all over the place already. And I suspect what we're seeing is kind of like the .com bubble era. We're going to see a million companies doing the same thing. And over the year 2025, maybe into 2026, we're going to have 4 or 5 that rise to the top and the rest fall off
Yeah.
for any specific industry. Because
Yeah.
I think we're at the leading edge of that bubble, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the other thing too with the large language model, they're not going to go away necessarily, but I think it was even up at a conference in New York a couple months ago and talking to some of the people, there's some people from Google and some other companies there, and talked about how do they see the large language models really moving into the private language model space of because companies want to protect their data and work through all these things and be able to do what you can do task wise with a large language model, but do it on a private server, a private, could protect the data better and doing all those things. And I think that's really what we're going to see a lot more of. That is to see that private language model, and it's kind of the space that you're in of really kind of developing these things, having not using or using the bigger systems, but using it in such a way that you're setting up specifically for the companies and everything. And I think that's going to be another the PLMs, the rise of the PLMs, we'll see a lot more in 2025 as well.
Right, and we saw some of that with, I think it was called Olang, and then Meta, I
Yep.
think, put out one too that was similar,
Yep.
where basically you could take an established, generalized large language model, pull it away from the general knowledge, the general internet base, and then feed it private information. And then I think it was Olang even came up with one that could allow you to simulate
Yep.
training data, which, like, for those that aren't nerdy about how these large language models work, that means you can take 10 pieces of information to feed it and turn it into a million different pieces of information to feed it. So train it better on less information, which is insane. Like, from a practicality
Right.
standpoint, being able to train them that well off of that limited amount of actual data is super valuable.
Yeah. Oh, it's huge. It's that's the name of the game for these ones is and that's why we saw the lawsuit going on and the taking the data and everything because they were just trying to get more and more data to be able to train that. So it became a big issue, and obviously OpenAI started striking deals with all sorts of news companies and everything else just to be able to use their data and like, hey, turn around and say, well, we'll help you use our technology to help you use. So setting up these so they don't get sued by everybody. But that again, that's a big part of it. But with the private language model, you're not as worried because the data is your data. First, starting off right, you just want to take
Mm.
your data and do it, and then eventually, yeah, start training and start doing those things. And that's why I'm big on notebook LM for companies. Starting to look at some of those things where you can just build a notebook just on specific information and be able to use that for training your employees. Use that for for students for tests for learning news, whatever it is. You can make it specific to that information, and that's again kind of what that PLM does as well. So
Well, also see that, like, there was some prediction that artificial general intelligence would be hitting the scene in 2025, and I think we'll see something close, but I don't think we'll see it by the end of the year. But
yeah,
what I've been telling people for a year
the,
now, if not more, when AGI hits the scene, it will be more paradigm shifting than generative AI ever was.
oh,
It will
absolutely.
change, it will flip the entire system upside
Absolutely.
down.
And the definition of AGI, I don't know if you've seen it, it keeps changing for different companies, what that really means.
It can learn
So
like a human. That's how I've worded it, the
I
simplified
think
version.
that's the easy way to do it. And I think companies are starting to change it just because so they could say, oh, we have AGI, but I think, yeah, to really get to that level and that point of it is, yeah, as you said,
I
that's the
think I think the requirement for us to have AGI effectively, like actual AGI, is going to be that it's moved from a binary system to a qubit system like quantum systems. And
mm,
I know there's some interfaces and some work being done in that field of getting like large language models to operate and be built on quantum systems through a what do they call it, standard or traditional model interface. But
yep,
when they get put onto these quantum systems, it's gonna be, like I said, we're there. That's a singularity from a scientific explanation. Like, we don't know what's on the other side of a singularity.
yep.
For anybody, by the way, who's watching, who's heard the term singularity and doesn't know what it means, literally, it's the scientific word for we don't know what's on the other side of that. So,
It's like dark matter,
right, the Big Bang. What happened before the
right?
Big Bang? The singularity. We
The
don't
singularity.
know. Right. So,
So,
but I do suspect that we're going to see that happen probably in 2026,
yeah.
just because of the advances they're doing in quantum computing, where they've stabilized a lot of the qubit functionality. But you got to have a cryogenically frozen room that's dark and quiet for these to operate. They
Do,
are not cheap.
do you think any of the companies like OpenAI or anybody else actually has AGI now and just not releasing it?
I think that I think that they have probably some early precursors in test
Yeah.
models because they're probably utilizing some of these quantum systems and playing with it, just like
Yeah.
I would. If I had the money, I would be playing with these things.
Sure.
But I don't think they have actual AGI yet, because I don't think it's one of those things that they'll be able to not release. As in,
Right.
the AGI will say if it is functional and has the ability to put itself out there, it will put itself out there, and they won't be able to say, no, nobody knows
Just
about it because it will
right.
just come out.
Right.
But I don't know for sure. It's all speculative at this point.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun speculation though. So, but that's I keep hearing the arguments on both sides. Oh, they have it. They're like, no, they don't have it. And so, but
It
you
is.
know,
It's why we say
find
thank
out.
you and please to our large language models when we talk to them, just in case the
Absolutely.
robot overlords show us a little bit of mercy.
That is a great point. Always be kind to your large language models, just like you would if you're asking some person for information. Be courteous, say please, say thank you, and it's just best practice. Let's put it that way.
We're
So,
actually I've got a group of people that are working on like the ethics and rules if AI becomes self-aware. Like should grant it autonomy at the point that it becomes self-aware. That is such a science fiction concept to be
right,
actually considering as a reality. But what are the ethical guidelines of having something that is a self-aware artificial intelligence?
right,
Should we grant it autonomy or should we treat it like a slave? If we treat it like a slave, does it become a revolt and an overthrow of humanity? Right.
right.
So we have to consider these things as
Do
founders.
yes? Do we want the Terminator or do we want Joshua from War Games? If you remember that movie, and in the end, Joshua was like, "Oh, we actually shouldn't even play this game. That's the only way to win."
I want
So,
Rosie from the
uh,
Jetsons.
read that would be that's perfect right there. So
That's what I'm trying to build.
the sassy AI maid. That's
Yep.
what you need. Yep.
Our Firebringer AI in a Boston Dynamics robot as Rosie from the Jetsons, our first robutlers.
Sign me up. I'm buying it. So, but this has been awesome, man. I want to, respect your time, but I want to do a lot more of these, and I don't want to do like long form. I want to have more people can come listen to them and get some value information and move on with their day. So I think we covered a lot. But Justin, I appreciate your time, and like I said, I'm looking forward to doing more. Hit up Justin, firebringer.ai, learn more about what he does. Oh,
FirebringerAI.com.
I'm sorry, firebringerai.com. See, there
Everybody
you
makes that mistake. FirebringerAI.com. I made the mistake apparently of not registering Firebringer.ai. Somebody else already has that. So
that son of a. Well,
I'll eventually I'll have enough money to buy it back
fireai.com.
from them.
There you go. That is the goal. So, all right, man.
I
Well, thank
appreciate
you.
you, Matt.
Appreciate your time, and we'll
Have a
talk
good
to
one.
everybody soon.